Hey guys, it's your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another great life update. I almost didn't make this video because I don't really have too much to say, but some of you guys have said that you like the life update ones, and I haven't made one for a while, so let's do that. And, made a video for a while, I mean. Although I guess the last video wasn't a life update, right? It was about Heart of Justice. But anyway, so first of all, we'll begin with some artwork. Now, I've got two tonight. And these are both, if you've seen my other videos and my other artwork, these are both different versions of stuff you've already seen me do. You've already seen me have. But these are much more polished versions. I was, today I've got Elmo and Oscar the Grouch. But I wasn't satisfied with the Elmo I showed you guys. I really wasn't satisfied with the Oscar the Grouch I showed you guys. These ones, they're not perfect, but I'm at least satisfied with them, and I'm happy with them. So let's take a look at Elmo first. One moment. All right, I forget this isn't easy. All right, well, do the best you can, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. That's one. That's Elmo. The other is, did I already say Oscar the Grouch? Because that's the other. The other is Oscar the Grouch. And this one is the most difficult picture I've ever drawn. Like, I mean, and not in terms of like technically, I've done more difficult stuff, but like in order to like get it to, one of the problems or difficulties of a more simple picture, something like Oscar the Grouch, is it can actually make it more difficult to get something that you're happy with, you know. And it took me, like, I think I probably, like, at least 7 or 8 different tries of doing it. And I never used a tutorial for Oscar because I had practice doing Elmo and stuff, so I knew how to just, like, for something as simple as Oscar, I could just look at the picture and then draw it from there. Like, I mean, look at a drawing of Oscar and copy it off that. I couldn't, like, watch Sesame Street and copy it off that. I definitely don't have the skill level to do that. But this was really hard. It was really, really hard. And, again, I'm very happy with how it came out, so we will do that now. Let's bear with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So those are, my nephew is one of my nephews is a really big Elmo fan. I already gave him one of the Elmos. He supposedly really likes it, but I'm not happy with the one that I gave him. So I'm going to see if next time I go to their house, I can get my sister to replace the Elmo she's got in his room with the new Elmo, and then he'll have a friend now. He'll have Oscar. So, and I'll have Oscar with him. So, yeah. Yeah, I guess those papers are starting to get a little beat up. So, but if you put them in a frame, I'm sure they'll be fine. I definitely don't want to redraw either of those. I can redo the Elmo. I really don't want to redo Oscar. So, anyway, me. Again, you guys all know this. If you've been following, quit my job in the beginning of March. Likely, like, I quit it knowing that it was probably the best job, you know, that I was ever going to have. But I just simply couldn't do it anymore. And I was unemployed for 2 months, I believe. Did find another job in selling insurance, although instead of being mostly customer service, this one is mostly on the sales end. And I managed to miss the first day of work, so I got off on a great start. And then the beginning part was, I'm commission only, so the beginning part was just, you know, like watching training videos and stuff, and just getting used to like taking a shower every morning, getting dressed, like looking presentable, showing up on time, and then being there for 5 hours a day, which, you know, I hadn't been doing that for the previous 2 months. And before that, yeah, I've been working for the last 3+ years, but it was a place where I could just, come in with sweatpants and slippers and a hoodie, and didn't always shower every day. I tried to shower most days, but didn't always shower every day. And then, and also I was able to just surf the web all day. And I would take, like, 5 or 6, if that, customer service calls during the day. Some days it would be more, but usually it wouldn't be that bad. Like I said, I just couldn't continue doing it. So even though I knew that, I've said this before, any job is probably going to be worse, and I'm probably going to get fired or quit. I'm probably not going to be able to handle it. But it didn't matter, because I just couldn't do that one anymore, period. So it didn't matter that there wasn't anything better out there. I had to do something else anyway. At least try something else. So this job, I would say, before I even got to my first day, I was thinking, how long before I can quit? Be like, without feeling too guilty about it. And those feelings went into hyperdrive when I started. And it wasn't like it was horrible or anything, but I guess it was like, I don't know, I just don't like working, period. And I didn't feel good about it. I didn't feel good about it, from the get-go. Like, part of me wanted to give it a try. Part of me just wanted to be like, fuck it, just Eldar. I'm just done with the working. But whatever. I mean, I don't know. I had mixed feelings. And but I mean, I guess I really had doubts that I could succeed at it. Like, I haven't been able to, like, I've been in insurance sales, but I haven't, like, other than that first part where I was at my previous job, the first few months where I was able to sell a lot, I haven't been able to sell shit. Like, I'm just so used to people calling in, and I can't sell them anything because my rates are awful. And like, I know that, like, in sales, you're not supposed to sell on price, okay? And that's something I used to really believe in, and I'm all for it, but it's like, insurance, again, is, if there's anything you have to sell on price, it's insurance, because why else would they care? It's all kind of the same shit. And so, okay, so first, like, at first, there was a tremendous amount of anxiety going to the job. After getting the first week out of the way, I started to feel a lot better on that front. And at least initially, and like, the first 2 weeks, I wasn't doing anything. I was just, this really sucks when you're commission only. Just going and going through the training stuff, and there was worse things. I've had jobs where I've been more bored, but it wasn't that bad. It probably wasn't even as bad as it sounds. The days didn't really drag too much. And honestly, it got to a point where I was kind of comfortable doing it. Like, it was good to have some kind of structure. Get out of the house, come back in, not really be pressured to do anything, to expect it, like, didn't have to deal with any customers. I didn't have to try to sell. I could just do that. I mean, now, it wasn't sustainable. I mean, the company would have no incentive to keep me around, and I'm not going to go and do that for free every day, because, like, the whole reason I'm back in the game is to try to make money, right? So I knew it wasn't sustainable, but I still had some dread about having to get back on the phones and try to sell. As the closer we got to that day, the more anxious I got. And then the first day, week, whatever, of selling, again, it was like, again, mixed feelings. Some of it I kind of enjoyed. Some of it was, I was feeling anxiety. Like, not so much when I actually started dialing, but, like, after I got off work, like, the time in between work, like, like, I'm done for the day or done for the week, I'd feel anxiety, like, oh man, I don't know if I can go back and just make those cold calls again. And I was getting shut down hard. Now, I was doing a really good job, in my opinion at least, I don't know what the statistics are, of getting people who, because when you're doing cold calls, most people don't pick up. Of the people who do pick up, I was doing a pretty good job about getting them to let me give them a quote. My first sales job was doing mortgage refinance, and I really struggled with that, with the initial call, until I found an opening which worked for me. And the opening that I used was, few months ago, you had submitted an inquiry about mortgage refinance. I'm just following up with you today to see where you are with that now. And that was like a much better, for me, it was a much better opener than the garbage one they gave me and the other ones I've heard other people do. And ultimately, when you're doing cold calls, maybe the most important part of an opener is that you're comfortable with it. The problem is that I thought that would translate into other, I could use that same approach with other cold calling type jobs. So that, like, when I left the mortgage place, I was selling websites, and I actually got away from that temporarily. I was using Benjamin Dennehy's one, like, this is a sales call. Do you want to hang up now, or do you want to give me 30 seconds? I got away from it, not because I wasn't getting a good response. I actually did. I don't know if it would work as well today, because I'm assuming most people have heard it by now, or at least a lot more people have heard it. But I never felt comfortable with it because it was just too gimmicky. Like, it just seems like, and also I was more, the more you do this, the less rejection bothers you. But the rejection of somebody actually saying, I want to hang up now, is worse than, is the least pleasant type of rejection. I don't know why. Some forms of rejection hurt more than others. Like, take me off your list, and it like bothers me. I know it bothers some other people. I mean, right now it doesn't. I've made so many calls it doesn't bother me. And that's going to get into my next thing that I want to say is, if you're somebody who's struggling with confidence, and like you just don't have a lot of self-confidence with people, you don't need like to hit the gym or to do any of that stuff, because it's not, I mean, I've tried it. That's not going to help your confidence. The only thing I've ever done that has like had a short-term improvement on confidence is doing outbound phone calls. It really does just get you there. It gets you better, and not just with the calls, but in all dealing with people in all facets of life. You learn how to be more definitive, and because I'm a strong believer that you don't need to be dominant, you don't need to be assertive, you don't need to be any of those things. But at the same time, you don't want to be a pushover. And it's not a huge deal if you are. It's not a big deal. And there are times where, it's good to take the path of least resistance. I've talked about this before. There's times where you shouldn't stand up for yourself and you should be a pushover. But there's also times where it does pay to be a little more assertive. And the thing is, what doing these outbound calls has taught me is to just ask for what I want, and where previously, I was like thinking kind of like, why would I not want to make an outbound phone call in the first place? Well, for the same reason I would never want to receive an outbound call, because it's annoying. If somebody calls me to sell me something, I'm going to be annoyed. So I feel that I project how I would feel onto them. And I guess just doing it enough has got me feeling like, first of all, I've got every right to go and solicit their business. Another thing is, I don't really care if they're annoyed, and there's no reason that I should. And I do remember this one time where this realtor agent came by my house, knocked on the door, and like asked if I was interested in selling it. And then, he mentioned that he had sold some other home in my neighborhood for a really low amount of money, an amount that I would never in a million years have accepted for my house. And yeah, I was pretty fucking annoyed. But the thing is, even like in that case, if he had presented it better, then maybe I wouldn't have been. If he had been like a little, instead of like being like autistic about it and just like, and then just telling me, like, I don't know. I think he just presented it the wrong way. I still wouldn't have been interested, not for such a low amount. But the thing is, if I was annoyed, who cares, right? The thing is, it's like, he's got a right to prospect. But that's not where. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic here. But anyway, so then when I got my first, when I went to, I was doing like the website sales, wasn't having success because it was during COVID. It was just a tough time. Couldn't get anything to work. Then I had a work from home sales job. I know this is all review for you guys, but whatever, but bear with me, where I was, getting people out of their timeshares. And, at first, having been out of not because of the last part of my website sales, I wasn't really doing any outbound calls. But at first there was some anxiety of doing the outbound calls, but I got used to it. It wasn't really an anxiety thing per se about that. But I think I kind of started the calls the same way there. I called them up and I said that, like, hey, you'd put in a request for, I don't remember exactly, but this is what I imagine I would have done. You'd put in a request sometime in the past about getting out of your timeshare. I'm just following up to see where you are with that today. And I got a really good response. I had an opener that I was comfortable with, and it got a good response. But after I left that job, I left that for insurance sales. And I tried to use the same opener, but I did not, except now, so like, you can't just I tried to use the same opener and I got shut down completely. It just didn't work. People are just like, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine or whatever. It didn't work. And then I started being like, okay, well, maybe I need to be more like straight to the point. So I would just say, introduce myself and then say, would you like to hear, like, I'm with the XYZ Insurance. Would you like to hear a quote? That got completely shut. I couldn't even get people to let me give them a quote. Okay. And, my boss, who was a guy from India, like middle, probably in his 50s, from India, nice guy, gave me an opportunity, but I guess he kind of came up in sales in a different world in like the 90s. But what he had told me to do is, he said, you don't ask them, you don't ask them what they want, because they're always going to say no. It doesn't matter. Just call them, and then you've got their information mostly on hand anyway. So you just say, hey, Mr. Phillips, are you, we used to be your insurer. Are you still at 761 Oakdale Drive? Yes. Okay. Oh, great. Okay. And then do you still have, you don't even ask them if you want to quote. You just push through, and then to make them tell you to either go fuck yourself or make them hang up. And when he told me that, I just dismissed it. I said, I can't do that. I'm not comfortable with that. I can't do it. And, but for this job, like, I didn't really have the opportunity to say that. The only thing is, like, there was, like, my boss can hear what I'm saying. And we also, like, went over, like, how we're going to open the conversations. And, so I had to do it the way that, my first, the Indian boss had told me all those years ago. I guess almost 4 years ago at this point. And, I didn't have a choice. I had to try to do that. And, that's like one thing about a good thing about sales is it pushes you out of your comfort zone. So something like that, which I had said, like, I could never do something like that, became something I got really comfortable with. Just going after, like, I just assuming the sale, assuming stuff. And, I'd always been wary of that, assuming the sale, because, again, if it was done to me, I'd find it very presumptuous. And you certainly can overdo it. But really what it is in sales and really interacting with people is, yeah, there are times where you've got to ask, but there are a lot of times where you don't need to ask, or like you don't need to explicitly ask. You just say what you want and then make them tell you no. And, I know it's not natural, and I know that maybe you wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of it, but it's the way the game is played. It's what you have to do. And so I actually did an okay job of this one at first, of calling people, doing it this way, getting them to stay on the phone with me. Some people would would hang up immediately. Some people would stay with me for a little bit, and then they wouldn't let me finish the quote and hang up. But I had a few people who let me finish. And it wasn't, I didn't make like a huge amount of calls either. So, the problem was that the quotes all fucking sucked. I just couldn't get a good number, and you're calling people who aren't shopping. So they're not looking to leave. They're only going to leave if you really knock their socks off. And I wasn't even matching what they currently had. And you know, I felt like this is the last two jobs all over again. The last two insurance jobs I've had all over again, where I just can't get a good rate. And like, I don't know how to sell this shit if I'm, you know, at best $35 a month more than they're already paying. So I was then like really thinking like, how long until I can quit? This isn't going to work. It's just not going to work. But I couldn't really quit, you know, because they had, like I've talked about before, they've given me an opportunity. And not just to given me an opportunity, but gone out of their way to make this position for me and put a lot of time in, getting me appointed with these carriers, teaching me the different stuff. So I feel like I can't not finish this month. I have got to get through at least this month. Get through this month and I'm not selling. They're probably not going to want me around anyway, you know. And but I have no choice but to finish the month. So basically, I had resigned myself, just go in, work the process. I'm never going to sell anything, but okay, but I'll keep at it. You know, I'll keep at it and then I'll quit at the end of the month. And so that was my plan. And then because I have two bosses, right? There's the guy who runs the agency, and then there's the guy who actually owns it, who's only in a few times a week for a few hours at a time. But the guy who owns it, you know, then, you know, sat me down, I don't know if it was Monday or Tuesday of this week, and was like, okay, well, you know, what you did was good to start off. You know, that was good, you know, for you to learn the system and for you to, you know, get practice on the outbounds, work on your openers, stuff like that. So that's all good. But you have to start selling, and you're not going to be able to sell with these crap leads, you know? So like from now, like now that you've got that part figured out, we're going to move you on to the real leads. And here, like, we've got a very specific, he's got like, I don't know if complicated is the right word, but a very sophisticated, detailed, like, system about going after these like hotter leads. So these are like all people who've inquired about insurance in the last few days. I mean, some of them are longer, but nobody longer than 3 months. Whereas the most of the people I've been speaking with are people who we had maybe contacted 2 years ago, 1 year ago, but it had been a long time. And I'm not saying I'm never going to have to work older leads like that, but these are more relevant. And then there's a whole procedure with like emails and texting and stuff. And, you know, and then I'm not going to lie to you, I haven't sold any of these yet, any of those outbound leads yet, but I'm getting a much better response. Like you're talking to people who do want to talk about insurance, as opposed to somebody who wasn't even thinking about it until you called them. And and in addition to that, I'm also starting to get the inbound sent to me, like inbound leads. And then that's how I got my first 2 sales this week. One was pretty big, like a commission of $400 for auto insurance. The other was not as big, like a commission for $180, I think. So that was in my last 2 days. And then I've got another one in the pipeline, and that commission would be like $80 if it comes through, maybe more if I get the auto portion as well. So it's at least a start. Like, you know, like I don't know, like I don't expect to make that much off inbounds every week. I mean, but if I could make $500 a week, that would be double what I've been making at my previous job. In fact, it's probably very close to enough money for me to live on without going into my savings. You know, which could make it like currently I'm en route to being homeless in about 8 years. This could push it out indefinitely if I could keep up at that rate. And so yeah, no, I'm really happy with that. And I don't know, you know, insurance sales is a tough business. You know, there's a lot of competition, and, you know, because it can be tough with the rates. Because, you know, I had people call in for insurance quotes at my other job too. I mean, not so often, but it wasn't just, we could never get a good rate for them. And it's lucky that today, it happened to be the 2 quotes that I got this week. We were able to get them Well, one person just didn't have insurance, so that helped. Well, actually, they both didn't have insurance, actually. So that does help. But, I mean, those are the kind of people we need calling in. And, because even if your rates suck, it's like, okay, well, they just need something. They just need some kind of coverage. And so, yeah, so I mean, so it's going really well, and one thing that, I really like about this job is that, now that we've got like a system for outbound calls and I'm taking some inbounds, it's not a job where you've got to watch the clock. I don't think about the clock when I'm there. I'm totally engaged and, either making calls or doing a quote or whatever. And it makes the day, so the day goes fast. So, like, because there's two different ways you can be stressed out from work. One is you can be stressed out from work because you've got a lot of stress and a lot going on, and that can be unpleasant. Believe me, I know. But there's also because you're going to go there and you're just going to be bored out of your mind all day. That can maybe be even more stressful. Not when you're there necessarily, but in the in-between times. It's like you don't want to be thinking about work when you're not at work. And thinking about just like, oh my God, I'm just going to be so bored, shit like that. And so I really like, just how fast everything goes. And, especially, like, because when I was doing the mortgage place, I remember even thinking like, this would be a really good job if I could do it for part-time instead of full-time, like, I mean, that would never have worked. You definitely, like, that job definitely needed a full-time commitment, and it would have been too stressful for me anyway. I mean, now maybe I can handle it, but at the time, definitely not. But despite the fact that it's like relatively fast paced, it doesn't even feel fast paced, I got like, cause I don't have too much coming in. It's just me dialing outbound stuff most of the time. And then, yeah, you do get some stuff, but it's, definitely less stressful than my previous job had become by the end. And, I don't have to do any customer service. Eventually I'll have to do small amounts of it. And no, so far I'm really happy, and I don't feel like I'm not like counting the days until I can quit. Like if this keeps up, if I keep selling, now they might fire me if I'm not producing enough, but I don't feel any pressure to quit. The thing is, as long as I can sell at least a little bit to make some money, then there's no, I feel fine. Like I feel like when I go into this thinking that I owed them 2 years if I could do it, and I mean I don't want to say I know because I don't, but there's a chance that, my health could fail at any time. I could get sick, I could fall into a depression and, may have to miss extended time or to the point where I just can't work there. Like if you're missing a week or 2 weeks, like, do they just fire me? I don't know. I guess, that would be on them. But at least it's more like I was saying about with the money. Now I feel like I can do this indefinitely. So in terms of stress, I'm at a much better place. So that means I should be able to get back to making normal content. That's what I was thinking. I was like, well, I feel fine now, finally for the first time in months. Like, I don't feel like I'm not stressed or anything. And in addition to like the job getting better, it's also been, I know I've talked about the shamanic drumming. I've gotten much better results from that ever since, instead of just like listening to it. Like I start like, get up and like bop my head and sway around. It has a much stronger effect when you do that. I don't do it for the whole 30 minutes, but for at least part of it. And that's really helped a lot too. So no, anyway, I was thinking like, well, great, now I can get back to making regular videos. The thing is, I just don't have any ideas right now. So I know that you guys have made suggestions in the comments. I'll have to go back over those and, see if I can think about them and have the inspiration to make something new now. But yeah, nothing else really comes to mind at this moment. So that's all for now. See you in the next.